Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live stream edition of Liberty Blue, powered by the Believe Network. On this episode, I will be complaining about USA Hockey's decision to leave Adam Fox off of the Olympic team, not as a reserve, not as a seventh or eighth. Adam Fox was deemed not one of the best 8 American defensemen in the NHL, and I'm going to prove to you over the course of the next 40 minutes to an hour why A, that is factually incorrect, B, Fox has an argument as being the best American defenseman of the last half decade in the entire NHL, and why players like Adam Fox are consistently underappreciated and underrated. So, to start out, I think it's really integral that we explore why someone like Fox becomes underrated before we dive into the numbers. And we're going to dive into the numbers, don't you worry. We'll look at the underlyings, we'll look at the actual goals for and against. We will compare Fox to the other 8 players selected ahead of him. So if you haven't seen the roster yet, the 8 defensemen Bill Guerin and the guys picked: Quinn Hughes, Charlie McAvoy, Jacob Slavin, Brock Faber, Zach Werenski, Jake Sanderson, Noah Hannafin, Seth Jones. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left-handed defensemen, and then you have 3 righties in McAvoy, Faber, and Seth Jones. So, at a baseline, I think it's easier if we do this process of elimination style. So, I have no problem with Quinn Hughes on this team. I have no problem with Charlie McAvoy on this team. I have no problem with Zach Werenski on this team. I personally find Jacob Slavin is a bit overrated, but I understand why people like him, and it plays directly into what we're going to talk about in regards to Adam Fox and how he is perceived amongst hockey people. But Noah Hannafin, Seth Jones, Jake Sanderson, Brock Faber, none of those guys are better at hockey than Adam Fox. Jacob Slavin is not better than Adam Fox. Charlie McAvoy is not better than Adam Fox. It is a really galling statement to tell me with a straight face that the guy who, prior to last year when he was hurt and he was on a team with a bottom 5 power play in the NHL, Adam Fox had never finished lower than 5th in Norris Trophy voting other than his rookie season before last year. This year he was doing really well. The underlying numbers were still right where they needed to be, but the perception of Adam Fox as a declining or depreciating player is almost entirely rooted in the fact the Rangers are not a good hockey team and the Rangers' power play has taken a step back. So if you compare the underlying numbers for Fox year over year from the year they won the President's Trophy to last year to this year, the underlying numbers are not vastly different in terms of scoring chances, shots on goal, expected goals, high danger. Those are all relatively stable. They're within a pretty tight range of outcomes. The only real difference in Adam Fox's play production this year and last year versus the prior years, the power play isn't as good. And you lose those 10 to 15 points you get from being on an elite power play, where the Rangers went from top 5 the year they went to the conference final and lost to Florida, to last year where they were bottom 5. This year they're bottom 5. That's 10 to 15 points. And points are not the be all end all. And I know that was one of the really common retorts I was getting when I was crashing out on New Year's Eve about Fox being left off the team. It's not just about points. What about defense? What about defense? The problem therein becomes we don't have statistics to measure defensive performance beyond suppression. The way we can measure with what we have right now, data wise, is what doesn't happen. So, for example, we can say that because Adam Fox is on the ice for 60% of the high danger chances in a given sequence, that means the majority of the time when the Rangers have Adam Fox out there, he's on the ice, they are controlling play. We can't measure what he does physically, defensively in a true single number. There are things like net rating, but I'm not somebody who gets too in the weeds there for things like net rating. I would much rather go through and look at, are they preventing offense from happening against them? There are very useful tools with things like microstats. You look at all 3 zones, the Corey Snyder product, which is one of the great resources we have in the hockey statistic community, where we can track things like zone denials, breakouts, and transition play, and give a bit more color, a bit more detail. Because to the credit of people who want to make the point, points are not the be all end all. Yes, generally speaking, if you score more points, you're a better player, but there are holes in that. You can be a very inefficient player. You could be a good player on a bad team, so you get more opportunities. Think what Eric Carlson was on the Sharks the year he won the Norris Trophy, picked up 100 points. All situations, playing a ton, not really inclined to worry all that much about defense because he was out there predicated on offense. But to bring the conversation to Adam Fox, and before I start clicking over to various tabs I have open to start pulling up statistics, I cannot begin to stress to you how good at hockey Adam Fox is. This and this sounds like hyperbole. Beyond Lundqvist, beyond Shesterkin, in my time of consciously watching and consuming Rangers hockey, which starts roughly 2005, I'm watching every game pretty much by 2011 or so. Fox is probably the second or third best player I've ever seen in a Rangers sweater. I wasn't there for prime Mark Messier or Brian Leach. I wasn't really. Yager's 1 year was great, but I wasn't really watching every game because I was 7 years old and I didn't have authority over the TV and I didn't have a TV in my room. But I think the seasons Fox has put together, and yeah, Panarin's had two Hart Trophy caliber seasons, but I think so much of what makes Fox special and why he is underrated is the way he plays. And the argument for someone like a Werenski or a McAvoy or Faber or Sanderson or even a Seth Jones is rooted in the physical traits the players have. It's not so much the capacity for production or results. You know, Hughes has a Norris, great. No one else on this list has a Norris trophy. Fox has one. He's been top three, I want to say twice, and he's been top five the other ones. All of this is to say, because Adam Fox plays defense in a way that isn't the most aesthetically pleasing, he doesn't block a lot of shots, he doesn't clear the net front, he doesn't battle hard in corners, he doesn't win the puck battles in the way that a Jacob Slavin does. People perceive Adam Fox as being bad at defense because he doesn't have great foot speed. He doesn't have the capacity to recover and get where he needs to. Where I think that's misguided for the most part, what makes Fox so incredibly good at hockey is that he knows where he needs to be at all times. He has the capacity to outthink the game. I have been pretty adamant throughout Fox's career. This is the smartest player in the NHL because he doesn't have elite foot speed or elite size or elite strength. He has to be smarter than everybody else. And I know there's a lot of misguided frustration about the way the Four Nations face off went, the way Fox played at the end of last year, the way Fox played the first 20 odd games this year before he got hurt. Adam Fox doesn't need to have world class foot speed because of how good at hockey he is, because of how smart he is. And yeah, would he be better if he could skate like Zach Werenski, if he had Slavin's size? Of course. It's the evolution of the idea of what you could be. You know, it's why there is such a groundswell of people talking about Josh Allen in relation to Mahomes. Josh Allen physically, the size, the speed, it's more impressive package. It's more imposing. But Mahomes, you put him in those spots, he's the one who makes the plays ultimately. But diving into the numbers, I want to start very straight up and very simple. Just looking at the point totals over the last handful of seasons and how we get there. So I'm going to click over to share my screen. We're going to share my entire screen. Okay, not that. We don't want to scare you and have. Okay, I didn't want it to have not the interstellar effect. What's the Inception? I didn't want it to have the Inception effect. Okay, so the way we're going to do this is you're going to watch me in real time work out how I would do this if I was writing something or if I was going to do show prep for an episode, a normal episode on a Monday. So right now, you see Fox has played 28 games this year. He's at a point per game. Where do we talk about efficiency and how they get there? So the first thing we're going to look at is time on ice. The more a player plays, the better the opportunity they're going to have to impact the game. And we're going to look at how Fox's minutes break down in terms of even strength, power play, and penalty kill in a second. But right there, 23:45, and if you click over, you're going to see Fox has consistently been, wait, no, wrong one. There we go. Fox has consistently been one of their most used players. And This year, Gavrikov's getting 8 seconds more than him. You go to the year before that. I want to say Keandre Miller was second behind Fox. But the reason we start there, and the reason I wanted to talk about just ice time, to put a player's production in the proper context, you have to give them a full scope picture of the context. So that means, how much do they play? Who do they play with? What's the quality of competition? Where are they on special teams? Do they get on a power play? Do they get on a penalty kill? Where are they in terms of the pecking order with the forwards? Are you out there with the best forwards at even strength, or are you playing with other guys? And when you start this conversation, you talk about Adam Fox, who has been consistently, for the better part of a half decade, one of, if not the best overall defensemen in the NHL. So as a rookie, he finished fourth in Calder voting. That was kind of a sham. I get why he finished low, but he won the Norris Trophy as a 22-year-old in his second full season. The year after that, he finishes fifth. The year after that, he finishes second. The year after that, he finishes fourth. Even last year, a year that everybody wanted to get on his neck, he wasn't as good, he was declining. He still finished 12th in Norris Trophy voting last year, and he was at a point per game pace. And what's really frustrating for me personally, they finally got him a real defensive partner. I wasn't ecstatic about signing Gavrikov. I much would have rather let Keandre Miller play that role. And yeah, maybe you walk to the end of this year and Miller leaves anyway and you don't get anything for him. I like Morrow. I'm not convinced Morrow's ever going to be anything crazy. They've got such a logjam on that right side between Fox and Borgen and Schneider. So where is Morrow going to play? Because very clearly they don't trust him as much as they need to if he's going to develop, if he's going to play a lot at the NHL level. So, with all of that said, this year, Gavrikov and Fox have been as lights out as it gets. And I'm going to pull up the numbers here in a second for you guys over on Natural Stat Trick. But Gavrikov and Fox together has been the dream outcome. And for much of the last 4 to 5 years, you have heard me come on my show, Liberty Blue. You have read me write about it to say they need to get Adam Fox a real defensive partner. And personally, Ryan Lindgren, the guy, nails. Would eat pucks, always willing to get hurt, always willing to bleed, do the good deed. At any point in the last 4 years, if the Rangers had somebody of Gavrikov's caliber in the Ryan Lindgren spot, or hell, if they had just played Keandre Miller with Adam Fox, you would have gotten even better results than you did. So to start out, I'm going to click on over here to Natural Stat Trick. And as you see, okay, looking at the screen, these are all abbreviations for things. So games played, time on ice, scoring chances. So scoring chance, shot attempts. These are actual shots, goals, expected goals, high danger chances, on ice shooting, and on ice saves. So in the 466-21, Adam Fox has played with Gavrikov this year. The Rangers have had 56% of the shot attempts. They have had 52% of the shots on goal, 57% of the goals, 59% of the expected goals, 65% of the high danger chances. And the reason their goal share is only at 57% and it's not a little higher, they're only shooting 8% in the Adam Fox minutes. So on ice shooting percentage adds up all of these guys that have played with Fox and Gavrikov at a given time. All of their shots on goal divided by the number of goals they've actually scored. So it's not just Fox, it's not just Gavrikov, it is the forwards they've played with as well. Where it becomes interesting, you go down here and you look at Fox without Gavrikov. Now, only 60 minutes, but still really good numbers. 64% of the shot attempts, 66% of the shots on goal, 72% of the goals, 67% of the expected goals, 68% of the high danger chances, 19.5 shooting percentage. That's why the goal share is so aggressive. And then the 8.57 save is probably why that goal split isn't even better. But because the shooting percentage is so high, it balances out. And then you look at Gavrikov in the non-Fox minutes, which means when he's played with Schneider, when he's played with Borgen. So a lot of the last month or so while Fox has been injured, only 44% of the scoring chances, 44% of the shots on goal, a 34% goal share, 43% expected goal share, 51% high danger. So still not bad on the high dangers, at least. Only a 6-2 shooting and then a 906 save. I wanted to start there with the conversation about Gavrikov and Fox because the perception right now that Adam Fox is a declining player or is struggling or is playing poorly is factually incorrect. And we're going to go look at Fox's career numbers in a second. But I really want to illustrate to you how much of this is just a matter of perception. There is nothing in the actual results of Fox's play other than his point totals being down to indicate this is a declining player. And we have established the power play being 5 to 10% worse year over year is why his numbers took a dive. It's not that the underlying numbers aren't there. It's not that he's playing poorly. Look, when you look at it from a historical perspective, when you look at it, what Fox has done in his NHL career, and you look at these underlying numbers, and these are on terrible Rangers teams defensively. Yes, they went to 2 President's Trophy. They went to 2 conference finals. They won a President's Trophy. They made the playoffs the second year under Gallant, lost to the Devils. All of this is to say the Rangers have never been good at defense. Anybody during that window from 22 through 24 and told you the Rangers are a defensive team was full of shit. Jacob Trouba is a terrible NHL defenseman. Ryan Lindgren is actively bad. Braden Schneider has always been overrated and always will be overrated. You look at the Adam Fox numbers over the course of his career, and this is a dominant NHL player. On bad Ranger teams that don't have majorities of possession, almost every year in his career, he has put up lights out underlying numbers or better. You look at the goal shares. He has never gone below 53% on a goal share. Last year, and this is what I mean by perception. You compare the numbers in the President's Trophy season 23-24 to what they were last year. So in the President's Trophy season, he finishes 3rd in Norris Trophy voting. Last year, he finishes 12th. He has a better share of scoring chances. He has a better share of shots on goal. His goal share is down 1%. His expected goal share went up 3%. The high danger chance share went up 3%. What's the difference? He even got better numbers. The on ice percentage a little bit lower, but the perception that Adam Fox is struggling or declining over the last 2 years is factually incorrect. The high danger chances, the highest share of high danger chances in his career this year, the highest share of expected goals at any point in any season of his career right now. His goal share is the highest it has ever been in his NHL career. His shot share is the highest it has ever been in his career. His scoring chance share is the highest it has ever been at any point in his career. Now, we can start to talk about the efficiency of it by going over to the ratings, but I don't understand how you come to the conclusion that Adam Fox is struggling the last 2 years. Point totals, which are being the justification that, well, point totals aren't everything, they're not. And I'm agreeing with you. Fox's numbers are as lights out gets. And there is a perception that Adam Fox is struggling at hockey because the Rangers suck. You need to understand just how bad the Rangers are without Adam Fox on the ice. So to illustrate that, we're going to have to do a bit of envelope math, which, look, I might mess up the math here and there, but the way we do this is by going to the team overall numbers and then subtracting Adam Fox's numbers from them. So you're going to watch me in real time do this math on a legal pad with a pen because I want to illustrate for you how important Adam Fox is to the team's success. So I got to toggle this back over to counts, and we'll talk about rates and efficiency in a second because that does matter in this conversation. So, okay, scoring chances, 585, and then 434. Shot attempts, 240 to 205. Goals 24-15. Expected goals 26.9. Expected goals 17.49. And high danger 125 to 64. Okay, so we have those numbers. And then what we're going to do, we're going to go over to the team totals, and then we're going to do basic subtraction. So 1958, 1986, 833, 908, 70 to 67. Oh, wait, no, that's on the wrong line. See, this is why we fact check in real time. 26.9, 8606, 84.9. Okay, now all we need is high danger and we're done. 400 to 341. Yes, for as much as I have complained about the Rangers this year, their underlying numbers on the season long are not bad. For them to be a 54% high danger chance team and a 50% expected goal team and still be this miserable kind of is an indictment of the players on this team. But now to actually go and do the math. So 1958 minus 585. I definitely have a calculator in here somewhere, and I'm not going to ask Alexa to do math for me because it'd be a little awkward. So 1958 minus 585. So 1373. 1986 minus 434. 1552. So right there alone, just the first one on scoring chances. On the season long, the Rangers are being outchanced 1986 to 1958. You take Adam Fox out of that, and it becomes 1373 to 1552. Almost a 200 scoring chance attempt difference without Fox on the ice versus when he is out there. That's really bad. So you go to the next phase. You do shot attempts, and those come out to 833 minus 240. That's 593 shots for. Then 908 minus 240 minus 205, excuse me. That comes out to 703. That's also a negative shot share. Then you go down to goals and you do 70 minus 24, you get 46. Then you do 67 minus 15, and you get 52. Again, the Rangers have been outscored this year 52 to 46 without Adam Fox on the ice. You go to the next tier down and you talk about expected goals. So the Rangers for the season have been credited with 86.06 expected goals. And then in Adam Fox's minutes, he's been credited with 26.9. So that comes out to 59.16. And then 84.9 minus 17.49. And you get 67.4. And then you go to high danger. You get the 125 minus 400. So 400 minus 125. 275. And then 341 minus 64. 277. And that becomes negative. So if you look at all of those numbers, every single one of those percentages, the share of the scoring attempts or shots on goal or expected goals or high danger chances is 5 to 10% worse without Adam Fox on the ice. Adam Fox is that good at hockey that he can improve the Rangers game situation by 5 to 10% at a time. Now, we go to the next aspect of this conversation and we talk about how efficient is he? How good is he at getting where he wants to as easily as he wants to? And one of the ways we can do that is by looking at what we call rate stats. So when we scale out players' numbers by 60 minutes of ice time, you have to remember these guys are only playing 18 minutes, and this is even strength only. We haven't talked special teams yet. So you look at it on a rate basis. The scoring chances, he's getting more per game than the year he finished third in the Norris Trophy voting. You look at shot attempts, these are down, but the overall share of them is still pretty good. You go to the goal share, this is down significantly, and we'll look at the expected goal share and the shooting percentage and save percentage. But this tells you the Rangers are playing at a slightly slower pace. The expected goals are up per 60. The high danger chances, highest rate of high danger chances in his entire NHL career this year. The shooting percentage, well within its range. The save percentage, well within its range. The reason I am trying to illustrate this point, the player is not in decline. The only evidence of decline is entirely anecdotal evidence. And a lot of it, and this is my personal take as to how this consensus has begun to form. I think there are a lot of people who look at a player like Adam Fox and say, if that guy is as good as everyone says he is, his team would not be this bad. I think you need to invert that and flip it on its head and say, this team is so bad, it doesn't matter they have Adam Fox. I said the same thing last year after the Rangers traded for JT Miller. He was over a point per game in the 30 games he played as a Ranger after being acquired at the end of January this past season, and it didn't matter. That's what's so frustrating about this conversation. Adam Fox is being blamed for the Rangers sucking, when in reality, Adam Fox is basically the only reason the Rangers aren't dead last in the NHL. Now, I know as of the time of this recording, I'm pretty sure they are in dead last in the Eastern Conference and they've played the most games of any team in the East. So that's not great either. But I do not understand how you come to the conclusion that Seth Jones or Noah Hannafin or Jake Sanderson or Brock Faber are better at hockey than Adam Fox. I don't. I Adam Fox has been a top 3 or 4 defenseman in the world since 2020. Him, McCarr, Quinn Hughes, and then the fourth guy, you can make arguments for McAvoy, for Miro Heiskanen. There are a number of guys I would consider for that spot. I have no qualms. Rasmus Dahlin has been very good, but that's more of the last 2 or 3 years as opposed to the full 5. And that's my frustration. Because USA Hockey picks and chooses when it wants to use certain criteria. For guys like Vincent Trocheck and JT Miller and Brock Nelson, they get to use the 5-year average of their careers, the last 5 years. Adam Fox is being held to account for what? 4 games in a made-up tournament that wasn't played under IIHF rules. That's why I'm so frustrated about this. There is no ideological consistency in this group beyond whatever Bill Guerin wants it to be. And look, I understand leadership is challenging. I understand as a decision maker, you're always going to be second guessed to some degree. You're going to have problems with getting in alignment everybody. But if we're going to sit here and still try and reenact the Miracle on Ice because we all like the Kurt Russell performance in the movie so much, I don't know what we're doing here. I am beyond a loss. And look, the Robertson versus Miller or Nelson or Trocheck thing is even more of a farce. Brock Nelson has been pretty good as an Avalanche forward, so I'll take my ires out a little bit. JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck have actively been bad. Vincent Trocheck is one of the most overrated players I have ever seen in my entire life. And the reason JT Miller, the reason guys like that get prioritization is because they play with a certain style. And remember what we had said at the Open, that it's hard to quantify defense. We can't evaluate defense. We can't get it down to a single number. Because of that, most people, when they watch an NHL game, are evaluating defense based on how noticeable someone is. And being noticeable defensively is not necessarily being good defensively. We talked about it before. I was talking about Jacob Slavin. Because Jacob Slavin blocks a lot of shots, because he gets his stick in a lot of lanes and breaks up a lot of passes, he has a reputation as being an elite defensive defenseman. Now, I have always been of the opinion, and it's material fact, offense is more important than defense. In hockey, offense is more important than defense. In football, we can have an argument. I still think offense is more important. But in hockey, you cannot win a game 0-0. You can play perfect defense and have perfect goaltending for as long as you want. But the game goes on indefinitely at that point. And to put yourself in the best possible position to win, you need to emphasize and you need to focus on creating as much offense as you possibly can under as ideal of circumstances as you can so you can replicate it over and over and over and over and over again. For someone like Trocheck, for someone like JT Miller, whose defense manifests in body checks, in puck battles, and the snarl and the after the whistle shenanigans, they get to have reputations as being good defensively because they are physically noticeable. I would always rather have the actually good defensive forwards who are so good at preventing offense that they get the puck more. I look at Sam Reinhart. I look at Mitch Marner. I look at Sasha Barkov. I look at Nico Hischier. Those are what comes to mind when I think of elite defensive forwards. Anton Lindell. I got into an argument the other day with someone on Twitter who had said I had said Trocheck is an extremely overrated player because of his style and people like the way he plays. And someone replied to me, well, no, he's not at his cap hit. That's not the point. His cap hit is not the problem. The problem is because of his style of play, he has a reputation he has not earned. Because of the style of his play, he gets a reputation as being good at defense. This is the exact conversation I've had for years about Mika Zibanejad, who is criminally overrated defensively because he kills penalties, because he skates with a big stride, because he has a long reach and he can get his stick in lanes. Mika Zibanejad is not physically imposing. Mika Zibanejad does not hit people, but he plays defense in a way that is easy to see visually, and people resonate with that. When I'm evaluating defense, I'm talking more so about decision making. Are you where you need to be when you need to be there? It's why I was sick of Jacob Trouba. It's why I was sick of him playing with Miller. Trouba freelances. Braden Schneider freelances. Darnell Nurse is the most egregious freelancer in the entire league. You throw Mike Matheson in there, but Mike Matheson isn't playing the degree of minutes those other guys are. When you call your own number defensively and you get yourself into those positions, you are taking yourself out of the play. And what makes Adam Fox great defensively, and yes, great defensively, is that he can break up plays before they happen. We're going to go over to all three zones in a little bit, and we'll look at things like zone denials and breakouts, because that's really where Fox shines, and he's been the Rangers' best defenseman of my entire life. I didn't watch Prime Brian Leach. McDonough is one of my favorite players of all time. Love the dude to death. He was never this good. And for Adam Fox to be maligned for the teams sucking around him drives me up the wall. So the next part of this conversation, I wanted to pull up Puck IQ, which is a database that tracks the quality of competition players face. So I'm going to share my screen again. This will bring up Puck IQ. Okay. So as you see here, we have a scatter plot. On the x-axis, this is dangerous Fenwick, which is a convoluted stat. So those are scoring chances that are deemed dangerous that get through the net. The y-axis is your time on ice. The higher up you go, the more competition you get. The lower you go, the more elite. So you click on Adam Fox right now. He's playing 39% of his minutes this year against elite competition, 32% against middle, 29% against what we would qualify as fourth liners. And he is producing the best numbers of his entire career this year. He's had years where he's played higher shares of dangerous competition and still well over the 50% threshold. You go back to this year. This is the year they win the President's Trophy. He finishes third in Norris Trophy voting. A little bit less of a difficult workload, but as we said, the higher up you go, the more quality opponent you get. And then the reason I think this is worth saying, not only is Adam Fox putting up career best numbers on the underlyings like we were talking about a few minutes ago on Natural Stat Trick, he's doing it against elite competition. And you think about how bad the Rangers are in non-Adam Fox minutes. Because Fox is playing the majority of his minutes against quality competition, that means the guys on the Rangers that are losing them these games are the depth guys, the third and fourth line, and the non-Panarin Trocheck line has been actively bad all year. I am so beyond tired of the conversations being had because it doesn't matter. Ultimately, so much of this conversation is rooted in personal preference. And that's what makes Olympic hockey and the decision making behind those in authority in Olympic hockey very interesting. There are no restrictions on picking your team like there are in real life. Bill Guerin has to consider the salary cap, the long term and the short term future, the prospects he has access to, the minor leaguers he has access to. And because you need to consider the salary cap, you cannot afford to have four great lines, three great pairs, and two good goalies. The salary cap forces you to prioritize what you want to spend money on. And most teams that are well run, at least, choose to spend their money on offense because offense has a better chance of winning in the long run. When you don't have a salary cap or future considerations to evaluate, to get caught up in the weeds of, well, that's not what a third liner does. There is no requirement that third lines or fourth lines or first lines or second lines play with any particular style. It is not a mandate, it is not a rule. Historically, teams have orchestrated their teams in that way because they did not have enough good players to distribute throughout their lineup. Now, in a salary cap era, it becomes even more pressing. And the reason I know it's bullshit, and the reason I can't take people who argue, well, that's not what a fourth line. Look at the teams that are winning the Stanley Cup this decade. The Florida Panthers won a Stanley Cup last year with Anton Lundell, Brad Marchand, and Esto Luosterainen as their third line. Marchand and Lundell, those guys could be on a second line. Those guys could be on a first line on a bad team. Luosterainen is a really solid middle sixer. He gets carried a little bit by having good line mates, but he's effective. He does his job. You look at the Tampa Bay team that went back to back with Blake Coleman, Yanni Gourde, Barclay Goodrow. Gourde, Coleman. Blake Coleman's been a first or second liner on the Calgary Flames since he signed there. Yanni Gourde has been a second line center for most of the tenure in Seattle. Went back to Tampa. He's playing a little lower in the lineup. Goodrow, not qualified for the top six. Don't tell Gerard Gallant or Peter Laviolette that for that matter. But you get what I'm saying here. You can go as far back as you want, especially in the last 5 years or so. One of the keys to having sustained playoff success over an extended period of time, in particular in one playoff run, but multiple in the cases of Florida and Tampa, you want overqualified players. Brad Marchand is a future Hockey Hall of Famer, more likely than not. He's on the Canadian Olympic team. He's like the eighth most used forward on that Panthers team last year, the ninth most. And I can even put this in terms you can understand with more of a Ranger-centric lens. Think about how good that Hito Kakko Lafreniere line was at times during the playoffs in 2022. Think about how good they were at times in 2024. Think about how good last year to start the year Hito Kakko and Cooley were. Now, individually, those guys probably aren't top six guys, but they were good enough that they outclassed the quality of competition they were going to get on third lines on most nights. And that's, again, how we know these arguments are dumb. Same thing with defense. Generally, your third pair are your leftovers. Your young guy you're trying to build up, turnstile on the other side who you rotate that spot like a game of musical chairs. But we don't have to consider that now. And I get why these people like Bill Guerin and Chris Drury get so caught up in this. They only look at hockey through their lens, through their life experiences. And Chris Drury was a really good defensive forward in his day. You go back and look, really accomplished player at the collegiate level, really solid NHL career, Colorado, Calgary, Buffalo, the Rangers. You look at Bill Guerin's career, cups with Pittsburgh, cups with the Devils, 20 years in the league, really accomplished player, accomplished assistant GM, won multiple cups in Pittsburgh as the AGM in 16 and 17. These guys look at hockey so much through the lens and the scope of their personal experiences. And this has always been a fault of people who are accomplished. If you are accomplished on your own right, you are naturally going to assume something about you is different. You are going to assume that because of the successes you've had, there's something unique or special about you. And in some cases, as an athlete, yes. But governing how you make your decisions as a coach, a GM, even an assistant GM, through the lens of your playing experiences is not a wide enough perspective. And it's to a fault why I spend all of my time reading, listening, watching. I know authoritatively, I do not know everything. I will never know everything. Hockey is always changing, it is always evolving. Your goal is to be as up to date and up to that cutting edge as you possibly can as a GM, as a coach. And part of that is considering outside perspectives. So when Bill Guerin does a press conference and says, I'm not going to explain my decisions, that is somebody who does not have the capacity to articulate their ideas because they don't have a leg to stand on. And you can say, well, it's not his prerogative. Why would he tell you why Adam Fox didn't make the team? Well, I'm not saying you need to tell me. You need to have a soundbite that doesn't sound stupid. And Bill Guerin can be as dismissive as he wants. I know most of you probably seen the quotes. If I get second guessed, so be it. I'm not going to second guess myself. And then what he had said on Friday morning, you guys must think we're not that smart if we're making our decision off of one play. All you have to do is explain yourself. You don't have to be snarky. You don't have to be dismissive. If you feel so good about Seth Jones, about Noah Hannafin, about Brock Faber, tell me. Help me understand. I don't need to know. I don't need to agree with you, but at least if you can make your point and make me try to understand, we can have a rational conversation. But the appeals to authority, the ad hominems about any criticism, those are rooted in insecurity. Anybody who can explain to you, especially in a position of leadership, why they chose to do something, that's somebody who doesn't feel confident in their decision. You know, it's asking questions about my why I didn't pick Adam Fox for the Olympic team shirt. But at this point, Adam Fox is unequivocally one of the best players I have ever seen. And that sounds hyperbolic, that sounds incredible. I just want to pull up something from this is hockeyviz.com. This is another one of the subscription services that's very helpful. This is Adam Fox's distilled career impact. So as of last Friday, not Friday, Wednesday. Wednesday was the 31st. Accounting for quality of teammates, competition, and coaching. 21% more dangerous than league average. 13% better defensively than league average. You look at the 5-on-5 offensive production and how good it is. It is literally the top of the axis. That's 8. That's the end of the chart. You look at the 5-on-5 defense. Now, it's not nearly as high as it could go, but it is still really, really good. And the reason I get so frustrated about this and why I have taken such a great personal offense to this, you are having your intelligence insulted when people tell you, well, Brock Faber's better, Jake Sanderson's better, Seth Jones is better. Charlie McAvoy isn't better than Adam Fox. Charlie McAvoy is more physically talented, but he doesn't put up the offense that Fox does. He doesn't control the game in the same way, but he throws big hits. He's Mike Sullivan's son-in-law. That helps your case on a USA hockey contingent that really cares about how things look. And the last thing I wanted to talk about on this show before I wrap today, send you guys into the weekend. You cannot tell me with a straight face your biggest priority is winning if you're not bringing the best players. Look, I love Miracle. It's on the bookshelf behind me on Blu-ray. One of my favorite hockey movies. It's right there with Slapshot as far as my favorite. Mystery Alaska too, but those would be my 3 favorite. I cannot get behind this notion that because something worked 40 years ago with college hockey players and a college hockey coach, when they had a full 5-6 month ramp up, a full training camp, off-season practices, that world does not exist anymore. The United States in 1980 was a bunch of college kids. They were playing the Russian army team, which was professional hockey players. They won a game as improbably as humanly possible. I want to see if I can find this. Miracle on Ice game stats. Where is it? Where is it? I remember reading an article. Okay, so I pulled it up. This is from 2019. The first period, the USSR outshoots America 18-8. The second period, 12-2. The third period, 9-6. For the game, the Miracle on Ice game, the Soviet Union outshoots the US 39-16. And that game control is an improbable outcome. It was literally called a miracle. trying to frame everything through the lens of we don't need the best players, we need the right ones. When we're dealing with college kids who aren't professional athletes, who aren't being paid, it's different. We have a full professional team now. These are all NHL players, these are NHL coaches, these are NHL decision makers. Being animated by nostalgia is why the US has not won a gold medal since 1980. They've gotten to some gold medal games, 2010 most famously. They got to overtime. They very much had a chance in that game. But you look at the talent gap between the US and Canada just in the last 15 years, and it is closing. Do not get me wrong. As much as I have complained for the last 45 minutes about the decisions they've made, the gap is as close as it has ever been between the US and Canada. Canada's got the two best players in the world in McDavid and McKinnon. The US, if they bring who they're supposed to, is right there. I would argue America's defense is probably a smidge better. Their goaltending is unequivocally better. The center depth is the one real weakness here. The Canadian center depth is a lot better than the US, but the American winger depth is pretty damn good, all things considered. So I wrote last week on my Substack, stop thinking in terms of miracles, start acting like a superpower. In Canada, they left Sam Bennett at home. They brought Tom Wilson. And I know Tony Cirelli is a John Cooper pick, but he's on the team. Brandon Hagel, same deal. You want to have guys who fulfill a utility, who play a role, and can do it at a high level. Now, if it were up to me, I'd be bringing Bedard. I'd be bringing Mark Scheifele if I were Canada. And I would be going as skill heavy as we possibly can because we can smoke the U.S. You look at a hypothetical third line of like Trocheck, Miller, and Brock Nelson. That's going to be out there against Sid, against McKinnon, against McDavid. Come on. You're insulting our intelligence by saying we're going to try and win with defense. That doesn't work. You tried that in 2014. You tried that at the World Cup of Hockey in 2016. You tried that at the Four Nations this past year. You leaving Jason Robertson at home and Cole Caulfield and Adam Fox, you're going to end up in another 2-1, 3-2 game where you cannot break through the Canadian defense and you're going to lose. It is that simple. Going into this tournament, Canada will still be the favorite. I know there is a real concerted groundswell, and I hope America wins. I don't think they're going to with some of the decisions they've made. I think Canada is a bit more of a well-rounded team. I think their high-end players are better. And the last point to make before we wrap, this American team's dinged up. Matthew Tkachuk hasn't played a regular season game this year. Brady Tkachuk's missed a couple weeks this season. Jack Hughes has missed quite a bit of time with that cut on his hand. Austin Matthews, prior to last night, he had a hat trick, I think, for the Leafs last night on Thursday night. He was only on pace for like 34 goals this year, a real decline. That's a cause for concern. I like a lot of what they have. Running Hughes, McAvoy, Slavin, Faber, Werenski, Sanderson is fine, but you could have Adam Fox in there. And that's my problem. It's not so much that just that Adam Fox was left off. He was left off for players who aren't as good as him. And the whole point of these best on best tournaments is to have the most talent you possibly can. To actively choose less talented players because of some preconceived notion about what winning hockey is why America doesn't win at these things. Look, can they? Sure. I don't think they will. I would be pretty shocked if America beat Canada with this contingent of guys. But all of that said, Adam Fox is a great hockey player. If you disagree, you are wrong. It is that simple. There's no equivocating. There's no. Adam Fox is one of the 5 best defensemen in the world. If you don't think so, go look at the numbers. Get back to me. I will talk to you guys on Monday with Andrew. Everyone have a safe and fun weekend. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts or over on